Everything going in the event? Are you enjoying it? Yeah. This is the last talk, as you may know, and when Nico offered me to do this last talk, it was quite an important thing, because I know that you are very tired right now, and you are thinking on the free beers that they are providing us in a few minutes. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and this can go very good or very bad. We'll find out in a few minutes, but at least you remember it, so this is good independently of the outcome of this. So probably when you reach out from here, you are going to be thinking about all the many new things that you have seen here, and probably you become a little anxious about the many things that you realize that you didn't know about Android development in general. And this is something that usually causes a lot of frustration in our day-to-day, because everything evolves so fast that it's very difficult to be updated with everything. And what I want in this talk, in these 45 minutes or a little less that we are going to be here, is to try to reduce that frustration somehow, and find like a guideline that we can follow to go from there to where we would ideally would like to be. And also, as a last step, we are going to build up a plan to reach that. So you could be here in two ways, just listening to me and saying what this guy is telling us at this hour of the day, or if you prefer and you want to take something from here, I recommend you to be more interactive and also write down the kind of exercises, to say it in a way that I'm going to be proposing you to do, so that hopefully I can help you take something from this talk. So for the ones who don't know me, my name is Antonio Leiva, and I've been around here the whole event. You maybe have seen some of these t-shirts, because some of the students of this program, that I know not going to spam you today much more, because you already have some presents in the gift socket that they gave you at the beginning of the event. But I've enjoyed a lot to be part of this event, and for many different things. But the first one is that I studied here and in this university. I did my degree here, so coming back after almost 10 years to the place where I started, it was very fun for me, and also made me remember a lot of things. But I'll get back to this point in a few minutes. The first thing I wanted to start with is what I mentioned at the beginning, first, so that we wake up a little, because I see that you are a bit asleep. I'm going to record a video of you and say hi or something noisy, so that we can have it for later. Let me change the. Oh, there's a. Well, maybe if I go. Oh, much better. Say hi. Okay. Awesome, thank you. So, thank you. I see you are being quite interactive, which it will be much better for the talk. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that what I mentioned at the beginning, that after seeing so many things, the first thing that can come up to our minds is that we are far away from the trend of Android development these days, and that we need to learn a lot of things. And this is something that happens every day, because everything evolves so fast. And a clear example that we have, and I'm going to use some things to write down here, because the theoretical part is that I wanted to make it more interactive, but the real thing is that I didn't want to do more slides because it's very boring. So I'm going to write down. So, and sorry for the letter because it's very bad. And oh, this is not okay. That's it, I think. No. Now, so the first example, clear example, is Jetpack, which is gladly there are not Googlers anymore here. The two speakers left, so I can blame Jetpack as much as I want here. That can you tell me some of the libraries that Jetpack provides? For instance, I don't know. I'll start with coordinator layout, for example, but I want more examples of.
Lifecycle extensions.
Which one?
Lifecycle extensions.
Lifecycle or architecture components to be more libraries. Room. Work Manager, Navigator, Pagination. We have to. I'm mixing languages today. We have to, for instance, view pager 2, or I don't know, many more. Jetpack Compose. And this are only a few. Do you know how many libraries were updated just this week from from Jetpack? 16 libraries. So we are leaving here many more libraries that. So dealing with all this anxiety of having so many libraries that we are missing and all the changes that we have in them can, well, my letter is very bad and now I see it. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Can lead us to very to moments where we feel that we are not providing a good work to our companies, and this usually can lead to imposter syndrome that I'm sure that many of you have felt, or even this anxiety and this need to be able to learn everything. And we usually tend to use a lot of our free time to do this. So we wake up in the morning, go to our job, and when we get back home, we keep studying to keep up to date or to prepare talks for the speakers who are here so that we can keep progressing in our careers, right? And this is not bad because it helps us progress in our careers, but it can be very harmful if we are not able to manage it properly. So the point that I want to reach here is that as nowadays we are in the end of the year and we are probably preparing our goals for next year, what we are going to try to achieve and what are the things that we want to change. We also take a look back at the previous year and see that many of the goals that we thought about haven't been done because we were very, very optimistic, maybe. Maybe that's the word, about the things that we wanted to do in the new year. Probably we are now thinking about those goals, right? And we can go and maybe add more goals, even more than the ones of the previous years. So in the end, we'll end up with the same problem that we had the previous year, or even worse, and this ball keeps going and going. So what I want in this talk today, in this interactive talk, to say it in a way, is that why instead of thinking about more goals, maybe we think about better goals and try to, instead of trying to follow everything that we have seen here forever or that the community is pushing forward, why don't we think about what are the things that are going to push ourselves to the next level, but not being so moved by the outside world. And I'll try to explain this better later in a better way. And even instead of better goals, even less goals. Why not? We are usually very we try to do so many things that sometimes we push us too forward, and maybe doing less things we can achieve better goals if we are more thoughtful with those. So that's the whole point of this. The first thing that I wanted to mention, and it's one thing that I'm usually trying to communicate a lot in these days, is that you don't need well to know everything. In my defense, I will say that everything. In my defense, I will say that this pencil is not the one of the tablets, so maybe things are not as good as they should. But anyway, you don't need to know everything, and it's better to focus on the things that really matter rather than trying to learn all the little details that keep growing up every day. For instance, it's okay that we are living today without knowing the 16 changes that the libraries had this week, because maybe we try to learn everything, and in the end we are using just one or two things that don't apply too much to our project. And that's the point, understanding better what applies to our day-to-day projects. And that's why I try to also to explain these days that instead of focusing so much on learning libraries, on learning more of the Android framework, more about the Android X new stuff, maybe we can focus better on learning good practices and software design and quality code, because that way we'll have more information to then take decisions or make decisions about the things that we are going to need in our projects. So, for instance, when someone asks me if should I use RxJava versus coroutine, or should I use Coim versus Dagger, or these questions that are easier to answer when we have enough background to understand first why we need those libraries, and second, what are the slight differences between them. Because if we don't know, for instance, how to create a good architecture, how to do dependency inversion, how are we going to understand why we need a dependency injector, or even if we never do tests, but we have seen in some articles that they are using dependency injection, we try to put it in our projects, but we only see that we are adding much more boilerplate to our projects without getting anything from it. So my suggestion for you for next year is that you try to focus first on these kind of things that, apart from being helpful to understand then when to use one library or another, they are also very good because they reduce this anxiety and this need to learn about everything much more. Because if a new library appears, if we have a good base code, it's very easy, for instance, to substitute one library with another, and we are less pressured about taking bad decisions in this selection of libraries. To put an example, if we tomorrow want to change room with SQLDelite, that was mentioned several times these days, it would be much easier if we are able to create a good code that can be abstracted from the source of our data, for instance. And this is the first part of this, that we are learning many things, but sometimes without realizing, without thinking about the goal of this decision, right? So instead of learning about everything, maybe we can focus more on what we are sure that is going to push us forward, and our knowledge, and above all, our quality as developers. And said that, becoming an expert in Android, and maybe you now throw tomatoes to me or something like that, but becoming an expert in Android is good, but should be like the second step, right? I think it's more important to become a good programmer first and then specializing on something, rather than trying to start from the ground and from the ground of a technology, and then after that trying to learn about these things that we mentioned before, like, I don't know, presentation patterns or architectures, testing, etc. And to do this is more in a technical way, but I wanted to touch another part that I think it affects us more, because it's not only about our careers. I focus it in our careers today, but it can be applied to everything, which is what moves us to do the things that we do, and what the decisions that we are taking, what are the guides or the guidelines that we are using to make those decisions. And there's an important word that also appears in several talks these days. I was very delighted about it, which is values. Societies are very good because they help us progress together in the same road, and also to have some organization among ourselves, but they are also very bad in the sense that the individuality is a bit corrupted. I mean that if we try to do something different from the rest, we are seen as the weird ones, and that makes us follow the steps that other people are taking, instead of following the steps that we should be doing as when we compare them with the values that we have. And what are the values? They are mainly that the things that move us, the things that guide us, and that let us decide whether when we can take one road or another, they let us decide which one we should be taking in order to be good with ourselves, to reach happiness, if we can call it in a way. So the problem with this is that we usually tend to make our decisions based on the things that are common in our society. Sometimes because we don't think about it, or sometimes because we don't want to be seen as different, and maybe we are going forward in the direction that we don't want. And to put it in a more specific example, talking about technology or Android, maybe we are learning too many things that the rest of the community now show them as a trend, and just because of that, we are learning them and applying to our projects without thinking what is really important for us and for the project we are working on. And there was an example these days, and I had some conversations with some people about MVP versus MVVM, for instance, that we are all now we are all in the need of moving to MVVM, when MVP has been a perfect solution for a long time. And these kind of things apply to not only to so specific things in technology, but also in our careers in general, can guide us to a direction that is not the one that we really want. So today, what I want is that you at least think a bit about this. We are going to do some some little exercises which are just like a test. I recommend you to do it then at home with much more time than the one we have here. But the first thing that I wanted you to do, and I leave you 1 minute or even less to do that, is to choose what do you think that are your 3 most important values, the values that move you. It can be, for instance, I don't know, your family, or it can be success, having a successful career, or it can be money. That's a perfect value. If we are not here to judge anyone, but I recommend you to write down in, I don't know, in a paper or in your phone, so that we can then grow, build up on the rest of the exercise on this. Or if you want to have it in your head, but I think it's better if you write it down and think a little about it. Obviously, 3 values are very few, and I recommend you, if you haven't thought about this before, that maybe you look for a list of values on the internet. That's usually a bit helpful, and then you can organize a little the ones that you consider more important and less. And the importance is also a thing to take into account, because they will then move you to one direction or another. When there are conflicts of values, one should choose about the other. And of course, this is something that changes a lot in our lives, because sometimes maybe you are now 25 and the only thing that you are thinking of is becoming a successful developer. But when you are 35 or 40, the important things in your life will probably change, but that doesn't matter, because this is something that should be reviewed from time to time. Okay, once you have write down those values, I want you to think if those values that you decided are guiding your current life. If, for instance, you have decided to be to have a successful career as an important value in your life, but you are in a job that they are paying you a lot, but you are frustrated and are not progressing, maybe that's not currently aligned with what you with the values that you chose, right? So I want you to think about that, and if those values are really guiding the decisions that you make every day. And once you have that, let's think about something else, which is, let me remove this, which is now we are going to think in our ideal day, something that would make our day, let's say, perfect. For instance, for some people would be, let's think, a person who has a family and just wants to spend more time with them. Their ideal day maybe would involve working only 4 hours per day, let's say, and then spend the rest of the time with their family. Or if your real passion is to go to work to Silicon Valley, then your perfect day would be there with very successful developers in a great startup working on Silicon Valley and doing awesome things to change the world. Or even if your idea is just to earn a lot of money, maybe you could be thinking you could have sold a very important, a huge company that you built, and you have a lot of money now to live without doing anything, or just spending that money on whatever you want. This would be 3 ideas, but think a little bit about yours, maybe a little scheme or a little set of points that would lead your ideal day. Or for instance, if you don't like to wake up early, maybe you want to wake up at 9 and then work 2 hours and then doing nothing else on the rest of the day. That's perfectly good. And after that, if you right now have like some kind of idea of what you want to do with your life and in the future, consider what you will need to be doing in 3 years now. Let's say that, well, 3 years, it depends on the goal. Maybe 3 years, or if you want to have a company, maybe you need more. So it depends. But in a long period of time, what do you consider that you will need to reach to that ideal day? For instance, if what we mentioned before, the example that we mentioned before, if you want to have a lot of money in 3 years or X years, you would need to have built up a successful company. Or if you want to spend time with your family in X years, maybe you have created some kind of business that allows you to get away from it and spend as much time as you want on it or not. So these are different examples. And then when we have this, let's think about next year. That is the main point that I mentioned at the beginning. We are going to decide the things that we want to do next year. So I will start focusing more on things that are more specific. If I want to live on Silicon Valley and my English is not very good, maybe what I should focus next year is in learning English, in getting a good level of English to reach that. Even if that implies leaving for some time our programming career. I imagine that your goal is that. Maybe it's better that you go to London to serve cafes for some time and improve your English, rather than spending time on programming here in Spain because you don't have the level to go to another country to work as a developer in a native country. So here this is an example of the things that we are supposed to do and maybe we shouldn't be doing. For instance, I studied a degree here, and so I'm supposed to work as a programmer the rest of my life. Maybe that doesn't need to be the case if my values are not aligned with the things that I'm doing today. So I recommend you to think a little about this, about what would be the big. It would be better if there are 2 or 3 things, because just one thing for 1 year maybe it's not too much, but we are focusing on one thing that should change next year so that you can achieve what you want to do in the future. And once we have this, well, in the case of the 1 year, maybe if you want to have more time for you, next year you should start thinking about building up something on your own, so that in the future you don't need to work 8 hours per day for another person, but you can work as many hours as you want for your own things. And after that, I would just look for something actionable for next month. In my case, I prefer to divide it in quarters during the year, but for this time, for the time that we have now, think about something that you would do in 1 year. Sorry, in the next month. If, for instance, your idea is to go to learn English and you are very bad at English right now, so bad that you couldn't even work in a coffee shop, maybe the next step that you could take is to find for some English lessons here in Spain, to take a little level so that then you can progress during the rest of the year and find another thing. Or if you are thinking about building up a company on your own, maybe you can find several people that, for next month, you can find several people that have grown up a startup and talk to them and try to discover or find out what are the things that you need so that a startup is successful. And that's more or less it. What I wanted to show here is that we don't all need to follow the same path, and when you are thinking about your next steps in your career, try to be more broad in the things we can do, and also that take some time to think about the values and the ideas that guide you, because if you don't think about your own values, there will be other people that will decide those values for you. I'm sure that many of you are working in a company where hopefully not many, some of you are working in a company where they don't feel that programmers are very well valued, and many companies, even if they don't know about it, all companies have their own values, which is what we call culture, the company culture. Some of them think very thoughtfully about the culture of their companies, but some others just let things go, but in the end, the people inside the company will create the culture some kind of automatically. So the point here is that when we are in a company where the values are not aligned to ours, we are going to feel frustrated a long time, and usually the ones that are not that should go away from there are us and not the company, because in the end the company is not going to change from one day to another, and maybe we should look for something that is more aligned to that. So in general, I just wanted to show you some things that have helped me to progress on my career and my life in general, and that I consider that it's a good moment now in the year to think about, because it's the moment to do balance of what we did this year and to decide what we are going to do next year, and that's it. Hopefully it will help some of you and will make you take better decisions in the future and be less frustrated about all these things that usually are so complicated in our industry. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if there can be questions in such a weird topic, but anyway, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yep.
As an experienced developer, what is the first advice that you could give to someone who is about to finish their career?
The thing that I think it helped me the most and I didn't realize after 4 or 5 years after finishing my career, is to start joining the community where you are working on, and start going to events and realize that there are people trying to push forward their careers and doing things in a better way. Always with the idea that I mentioned, that even if there are people here talking about things that we'll probably never see or never reach that level, that it's perfectly okay, because we probably are learning and doing other things that they don't. So my recommendation is to start joining these kind of events, or even smaller, like the MAG that they also organize, because there are places where you can find other people thinking like you, and that they can provide you that passion that I think is really important in any job and in any specific field.
Thank you. And what is more rewarding to you as a mentor?
Good question. what I really enjoy is helping other people to reach their goals and to reach and to be able to make a reality of their challenges or the thing that they want to manage, even if it's. I always try to mix a little the technical stuff with more personal stuff, because I don't think that learning by learning is the perfect thing, but I think that a more focused learning will help you achieve your goals in a much saner way, I'd say. Thanks.
More questions?
Okay, thank you then.
Thank you very much, Antonio.